Hey there, welcome back to True North Reviews. My name is Ryan, and today we are discussing the new Of Monsters and Men record, Fever Dream. This is the third studio album from the Icelandic alternative band. They broke into the mainstream back in the early 2010s with their debut, My Head is an Animal. It had this cute, folksy, romantic sound to it, nice interchanges between male and female lead vocalists. Little Talks was an inescapable hit. No matter where you went, you'd hear it on the radio, you'd hear it out on the streets, you'd hear it everywhere. Fantastic song. The rest of that record was amazing too. It had a lot of bombastic brass instrumentation as well as some yelpy vocals from the backup vocalists. Moving on from their folksy acoustic ballad kind of stuff, we got a bit of a darker tinge on their 2015 record, Beneath the Skin. This was an album that was also marked with a lot of visual aids, a lot of imagery. I was fortunate enough to see them live where they showcased this, and then we had the band just take a few years off. They started working on this new album here, Fever Dream. And once again, we have this album which is heavily focused on visuals. Now, with Fever Dream, this is an album that's going to sound completely different from the first two. Do not come into this thinking you're going to get more of that music. The female lead vocalist Nana said that they really needed this change for the band. They weren't as motivated to write songs that they just knew every time they picked up the guitar it was going to be the same thing over and over again. It was a pretty defeating process. And you know what? Like, that's a good enough reason to really just kind of want to break free and write something else and just maybe use a different instrument, use a different technique of songwriting. And when it comes to this album, they wrote all the songs on computer. In addition to this, we have instrumentation, which is pretty minimal, pretty basic for lack of better words in the style of playing. But to give Of Monsters and Men the benefit of the doubt here, I think they're stripping back these raw performances, the instruments too, just so that they can focus on more of the intimacy and the void that you can create with audio spacing. Instead of guitar, what becomes the focus is piano. It does lead a lot of the tracks here. And we have some vocal fooling around as well, some experimentation, which Of Monsters and Men haven't done in the past, and I think that's really all owed to Rich Costi, who is co-producing all of the songs here. He produced Muse's 2018 record, so this is very understandable why these songs are just covered in synthesizer and just clean and sterile mixing. Now, moving into the track list here, the first song that we get on the project is entitled Alligator. I already did a full-length review of this when it first came out. It got me super excited for this album. What I love about the song Alligator, which I thought the rest of these songs would do as well, would balance the old sounds and new sounds instead of isolating the old fans from the new fans. Because I feel like the rest of this album is pretty divisive. There are a lot of songs on here that aren't going to please a lot of old fans. And what this abandonment feels like for the old fans, myself included, I'm completely fine with it. It's just that the direction they kind of take their sound is very clean and glossy. I'm not a fan of that. There are many songs on here that just drive me up the wall insane, like Hey, Rororo, and Vulture Vulture. These are songs that make use of slick and sterile bass lines and just like very clean mixed pianos. And what else really bothers me with this album is just the very uptight nature of how these songs are being played. I feel like they didn't let loose and just have fun with the songs that they made here. The final disappointment that kind of acts like the straw that broke the camel's back is really the rigid structure to a lot of these songs. It's very predictable is what I'm saying. There are just verse-chorus structures all over here, and we get like a solo towards the tail end of the track, and then we go into this expanded chorus. But yeah, really, this album, there are bright spots to it. I will say that. There is a lot of interesting visuals, and sometimes visuals are enough to get by for an album, but this is music after all. There has to be something in addition to that for me to keep coming back and wanting more. It's just really unfortunate. A lot of these songs, I could see the potential with them. It's just Of Monsters and Men kind of vowed for more of a glossy sound and just like uninteresting, dull, lifeless piano chord progressions, which seem to be at like the center of every song. No matter what, like it's kind of starting off with a piano or it like pops up at some point. But my god, the worst song on this project for sure is Under a Dome, which just has the weakest lyrics in their discography to date. Such passionless vocals over top of another stiff and conventional piano chord progression. Positives about this record though, there are a few. As I said, Alligator is a fantastic song. It will be one of the best songs of the year in my opinion. The other single that dropped before the album, Wild Roses, I enjoy this. Not so much for the dreary verses, but more of the exploding chorus. It's a fantastic song once we get past that first minute or so. One of the slow cuts I do enjoy on here is entitled Stuck in Gravity. This is the 7th cut on here. We have a synth solo that I don't really care for, but if I just block that out, I do like the melody. It's one of the catchier, one of the stickier ones on the project. It's this slow, kind of sultry song that has some ruminating lyrics to go along with it. And lastly, the closing song, Soothsayer, ends up being a highlight on the project, only because like the 2 tracks before it are very boring and almost put me to sleep, and this one actually wakes me up. It feels like a bit more textbook of Monsters and Men going back to their last record. Overall, Fever Dream, it's a mixed bag. It's a lot of songs that just are uninteresting, boring. They might have some interesting lyrics and colors. That's what I was expecting. That came true. The visuals are the best part of this album by far. But outside that, there are just too many songs on here that are just run-of-the-mill, very formulaic. They make use of the same progression over and over again. And at the end of the day, I would describe this as a disappointment. I'm really missing their old sound. I admire their Nordic kind of folksy charm, and I feel like they lost it here. It still is tolerable to listen to. I'm not saying this is the worst album ever. It's just something that feels too comfortable with its experimentation. Like, it is a new sound for the band. They're doing something new. It just feels like the songwriting and what they do is a bit formulaic and a bit safe. So I'm feeling a 5 out of 10 on this. Maybe the clean production and all that kind of extra stuff wasn't for me, but sound off down below in the comments. Let me know what you think of Fever Dream by Of Monsters and Men. Let me know what some of your favorite songs are. Leave a rating for the album. What would you rate it? Leave a like, subscribe if you're new in town. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a rockin' day.